Good afternoon. I almost said good morning, but we're doing things a bit differently in the afternoon. Uh, Welcome to Lenaro Connect. It's my great pleasure to welcome you here to Madrid for the next Lenaro Connect. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Grant Likely. I'm Lenaro's CTO. Um, and well, I'm probably a bit biased, but this is very definitely my favorite conference of a chance to get together, of engineering, getting stuff done, working on open source and Linux. So welcome. I hope you're going to have a really great week. And yeah, so let's just jump on into it. So I want to get started with talking a little bit about we come up with a theme for this year's Connect, and we started talking about production grade on ARM. So now if you're familiar with the ARM ecosystem at all, you're probably looking at this going, "What? Wait a second, production grade on ARM? Haven't we kind of already done that?" If you look at the ARM architecture, clearly things are incredibly healthy. So to date, over 280 billion ARM devices have been shipped worldwide. Over 99% of the smartphones are ARM-based. AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, Oracle Cloud, all of them offer ARM instances with superior performance and scalability. So surely, as Armor likes to say, the future is built on ARM. Surely we've already hit production grade. Surely this has already been achieved. So, well, let's so to dig into kind of what I'm thinking about here is, what does it mean for today? As I've been thinking about this, it's the realization that what we're doing in the ARM ecosystem is not a static thing. We've evolved and we've changed over time, over the years, and we've had to adapt as we start to get into new markets, and as the demands on what we're doing with Linux and open source have changed, we've had to change to go along with that. So when we say production grade on ARM, we're talking about something that is no longer static. We're talking about something that we need to adapt and change our definition of what production grade means as we go along. And so to kick us off on this conference and to talk through about this, there's kind of three things that I'd like to dig into. And that's interoperability, security, and quality. And the way that I'll do this is I want to talk about a few of the stories and some of the things that we've done in the ARM ecosystem and in Lenaro over the years to get to where we are now. So the first one let's talk about interoperability for a little bit. In our, sorry, I lost the track away about for a second. So with the ARM ecosystem, whenever we're talking about ecosystem is simply what it means anytime we're talking with something bigger than one. Whenever we're doing something on our own for our own project, we can go off and we can do whatever we want. We've got lots of ways to do that. We don't have to work with anyone else. But the moment we go to more than one, the more that we go to larger teams, larger projects, larger ecosystems, larger industries, we now have to figure out how we work together so that we can build upon what each other is doing. And when we do that, when we've got a healthy ecosystem that allows us to build and to grow on what we've done, we see exponential growth. We see an explosion of things that can be done. In one sense, you can think about it as you create the environment, you create the building blocks, the pieces that allow creative people who have new ideas to make use of those and go off and do something interesting with this. Back in, say, around 2012, when ARM was first looking at doing things in the ARM server ecosystem, this was a big deal. In our history with ARM, we were used to embedded, we were used to mobile, of building all these devices. And in that space, we were very used to building vertically integrated stacks because that was the easy way to do things. We had control over all pieces, we could put them all together, and we could ship a product, and we shipped millions of phones, millions of devices based on that. Then when we started taking a look at the server ecosystem, This is an ecosystem that had a very different set of demands. In the phone market at that time, the phone stack was very static. Same with the embedded stack, where what was running on the device that's what was running, and it wasn't really changing the device. But if you're talking about general purpose compute, then we're talking about needing to be able to land applications, needing to be able to do things that are different. And so when we approached that, the first instinct was, let's just do what we've done before. We were successful in mobile embedded. Let's do the same thing in server. And we'll use the same firmware, and we'll use the same ways of building stacks, and we'll put that out in the market, and we'll use the same hardware. Very quickly, we realized that the way that we do that doesn't scale for the amount of interoperability, for the amount of different companies and different projects that need to be able to work together. If I am a software vendor and I have an application, do I need to have access to every single piece of hardware and port my software to every single OS stack that's on those hardware? Or do I need to have a place where it's a stable platform that allows me to land regardless of what the hardware underneath is? And it forced us to start taking into account, forced us to start paying attention to standardization, to picking up the standards that had already been used before, to adapt those standards to make sense of what we do in the ARM ecosystem, to adapt the way we engage with those standards. A big part of that had been the device tree versus ACPI debate. And some of you will remember some of the discussions back at that time. But we had expectations in ACPI, and that was working in a particular way, which wasn't working for us as the Linux community. But it was the expectation. And rather than just jumping in and being involved with that and taking over the ACPI or using what had been done before, we got involved. We helped to change the way all of that ecosystem worked. We helped to change the way the management of the specifications, the way servers are built, and created something that actually works for us as the open source community, us as the ARM ecosystem, and works for the wide array of hardware vendors who want to work in the server space. And we can see the results of that now. 10 years ago, ARM servers, did anyone really believe that we were going to be able to do it? And now it is just a given of every application, every software vendor is taking ARM seriously. We have every major cloud provider provides ARM instances, and it has created this explosion of activity of you no longer need to be directly communicating with the vendors of the devices to be able to make use of these servers. It's just general purpose, you're able to use that. So that's where we've got us to here. Now looking at that, what does that mean for going forward? Right? We've tackled the server ecosystem. What does that mean for all these other ecosystems that we're in? And it's, I think that looking at interoperability, where we've paved the path in servers, mobile has certainly paved the path with the application environment and the runtime and how that ecosystem is supported. Where are the other places that we need to be doing the same thing to enable all this creativity? And through this week, we've got conversations about automotive and what that looks like there, especially as automotive platforms are starting to converge onto compute with virtualization and needing to be able to run both mixed critical workloads. And we're seeing this in the edge and IoT space, which you'll be able to hear more about as certainly pay attention to. You'll hear more about that in a few minutes. Now, second, I want to talk about security. How many people in the room know why I've got XV up on the slide?
That's its law. It's like wrong.
XZ, oh. Oh, that's embarrassing.
It's pretty hard. But not that question. What is so much to
The XZ vulnerability. How many know about the XZ vulnerability? Oh, a lot more hands now. Okay, it's not a keynote in 2024 if I'm not talking about XV. Exit. Can you edit the slides live here? Because I keep seeing it. I say the wrong thing. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, here's the very short version. With XZ, a bad actor tried to attack and tried to take over the program with quite a sophisticated attempt that involved multiple years of social engineering and obfuscated code to backdoor this in certain Linux distributions. And this all kind of came to a head in February this year when the main attack was committed into the repository that this bad actor had managed to get themselves trusted as a maintainer of the package. Then once it started to hit some of the distros, some odd behavior was discovered, and quite amazingly, the backdoor was discovered within a month of the attack going out, because we started to see some weird behavior in Debian, and that was, the amount of time that it would take to log in was taking a long time. And so what it was discovered is that this was a backdoor in XZ to create a bypass, credential check bypass on SSG, as far as we understand right now. There's lots of resources. Go look on LWN to find summaries of what's going on. So the this is going to be a memorable keynote. So to be able, what I think is interesting with this case, though, is with XZ, yes, there was a very serious attack, and this is kind of chilling to any security engineers, anyone in computing that relies on open source, that this actually happened. There are some things that I noticed, though. One is, though this was a sophisticated attack that took years to set up, it was discovered within a month. And it was discovered because someone noticed unexpected behavior unrelated to what the XZ package itself does. And it was discovered, and it was noticed in multiple places. Gentoo was seeing crashes, Debian was seeing login problems. The breadth of our community actually discovered this fairly quickly. Going back to the ecosystem, having a broad ecosystem, this is another one of the advantages, is you have a lot of people doing things that are unusual, or that are not necessarily what you expect, and that creates a lot more visibility. The comment, all bugs are shallow, isn't just looking at source code, it's also looking at behavior. The other thing that I noticed is that this attack was based on misusing trust. This bad actor had gained trust and then misused that to try to get access to systems, we presume. Now it's tempting to go, oh, actually, okay, the problem here is that we trust too much. And that worries me a little bit, because everything that we've done in open source, everything we've done in the ARM ecosystem has been based on relationship. It's been based on being able to know the developers that you're working with. Face-to-face always helps. That's one of the reasons I love Connect. But it's based on relationships that we've developed over decades at times, that we trust other engineers to have good engineering sense and to have to have good intentions. But it's also based on this very vigorous interaction and looking at code and challenging each other's assumptions and working out what the best possible solution system is. So the problem in this case, I don't think, is trust. I don't think it's that we are trusting where we shouldn't trust. But I think one of the things that we should be asking is that, how are we validating that trust? How are we doing our processes of collaboration? How do we know the people that we're working with so that we can have greater levels of trust and know that our projects are actually being managed responsibly and safely? The other thing for you maintainers in the room, another aspect of this XZ attack is it's part of the reason why it succeeded is the maintainer of XZ utils was not able to pay a whole lot of attention to the project. They had a lot of demands. They weren't focusing on it, feeling bad about that, I believe. And then this actor was able to take advantage of that. For maintainers in the room, I've been there. I know that it's really easy to feel like you've got this responsibility and this weight on your shoulders, and that you have to do, you are the person that has to hold it all together and keep your projects going. One of the strengths of our community is the fact that we are so interconnected and working together. If you find that you're in a place where you are spending all of your time and overtime into the evenings working on things, we're all human. We are all limited human beings, and we can't do it all. So that's actually a sign of where there is stress in the system, and where there is, if you're finding yourself overloaded, start asking for a place for people to help. And I know that's hard to do, but also, how do you put boundaries in place? Don't burn yourselves out. But there's putting boundaries in place, and sometimes stepping back a little bit and just reducing the amount that you do with your project is one of the ways that you draw other people in and get to know other people who can help you out, rather than going for that heroic effort to the point that you burn out. And then finally, I want to talk about quality. And this should be obvious. Test everything. We've developed a culture of this within the open source ecosystem. This has been developing over years. And it seems a little bit odd that I would put this up here on a slide. We do this in many ways. But the point is that to test everything as a culture, and it's something that what we need to do is always increasing over time, of our capability, the tools that we have, the ability that we have to do more coverage and more analysis of the work that we do. We need to be making use of it. The environment that we are in, unfortunately, is hostile. As our devices are more connected and more capable, they're also a lot more valuable to those who are bad actors and want to take advantage of that. The way that we can protect against that is defense in depth and breadth. With breadth, one of the ways we do that is we do that with testing. We do that with new ways of finding a quality, new ways of validating the things that we do. Again, looking back at Linaro's history early on, when we were looking at the major problem of, we've got this ARM software ecosystem where every platform has its own tree. It has its own thing that it's doing, and it's out of tree. We need to figure out how to get all that into the same place. We knew that there was going to be massive amounts of refactoring code just to get there. That churn always creates uncertainty. It always creates changes in behavior, and we needed a way to find that. So as part of standing up all of that work on the Linux kernel, we also were standing up and creating a test framework called Lava to make sure that we're actually validating and going through test cases and being able to add more. Lava is now the test framework used around the world for testing embedded devices, edge devices, IoT, or products in general, mobile as well. And then Lava has enabled us to do additional testing or additional projects, such as we've got Linux kernel functional testing and the LKQ project. Recently, there was an article that hit LWN that really highlighted this. How many of you heard about the ext4 bug that hit stable? Fewer people. I got this one right, though, yeah? So ext4, this is a fairly minor point. It is a bug. It was a data corruption bug that hit one of the stable kernels. And that alone, that's not great, but it was caught fairly quickly once it hit stable and backed out and things went up. But the reason I'm highlighting that one is it exposed something that's been going on quietly for a very long time that has been helping with Linux kernel quality. When this bug first was, when the patch that introduced the bug was first proposed for stable, within 12 hours, I think, we had a report out of the LKFT project that Daniel Diaz posted to the mailing list that identified, hey, this is a bug. This is something that's, this patch can't go in. And the reason it went into that one stable kernel was it was just missed for one of the stables of all the stables that it went in. But it shows that this ongoing continuous testing with LKFT and also with some of the other test frameworks that are out there in the community has really increased the quality. And the things that we used to be able to do 10 years ago, our capability, our process, our our quality and reproducibility of being able to build quality products is way higher than it was then, and we need to keep raising the bar on that. One of the things that we've been noticing as we've been talking to partners in the ARM ecosystem is for most of us in the room, we all get that. Most of us understand all of this. A lot of our customers are struggling. A lot of our customers are still working out, how do we do this? How do we build quality products? And how do we make use of all the capability that the open source community has already provided? So what I'd like to do now is to talk about how we collaborate and why the collaboration is important. Please welcome Bill Fletcher up to the stage, who is our VP of Sales for Engineering and Services.
Yes.
Thanks, Grant. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Bill Fletcher. I head up sales for engineering and services. The hyphen in my title is important. If it's a comma, then it means I'm in charge of everything. And that's actually what's on my lanyard badge. So I'm going to talk about collaboration. Shouldn't really be a new topic for Linaro, but I think it's important to call it out. And before I call out collaboration specifically, I think it's pretty important to recognize that Linaro really covers a broad spectrum of activities. And from one end, we have what I call community initiatives. So we host projects, we're maintainers. We do engineering. We kind of unique in the sort of open source entity space that we do a lot of engineering across the ecosystem. We run segment-specific collaboration groups. We have one-to-one engagements with our partners and with their ecosystems. And then we do basically professional services engagements. We do contracts with companies to do open source engineering typically. So if you consider that range, I kind of characterize it with just a couple of examples. FOSDEM should be pretty familiar to most people in the room, I hope. If it's not, then you should go. And at FOSDEM, Linaro is an enabler and contributor. We're deeply engaged with the open source community. Beer, dev rooms, open source, that's how FOSDEM itself characterizes its events.
In that order.
In that order. There you go. So, I have to say, probably my second favorite event. And, this year at FOSDEM, I think we had 7 or 8 presentations. We're very active at FOSDEM. It's a great event. It's a great community event. Fantastic job by the organizers to run it. And this is just an example of us being at FOSDEM and talking about some Linaro projects there. And the projects you can see on the photo, one of them was Opti. And I'd like to name check Opti because Opti is celebrating 10 years. Great. There is a session this week. You can go and see your favorite Opti stars. Joachim, yes. They'll be signing copies of Opti for you. And also we were talking about LKFT, which Grant already checked, a very important project. So that's kind of like just a little example from the community end of the scale. And at the other end of the scale, this year, for the first time, Linaro was at Embedded World. Embedded World is a very big trade show in Germany, in Nuremberg. As it's in Nuremberg, it has pretty good beer. Maybe there's a connection there. It's an event focused on industry and products. Linaro was there as a business entity, engaging with the industry. We were talking about our services. We were talking about products like the new OneLab, which you'll be hearing about this week. So just another example, the other end of the spectrum for Linaro. So, like I say, we cover a wide range. So the question then is, well, how wide is our collaboration? And in order to answer that question, I figured that I should ask someone. So who am I going to ask? Now, are you familiar with the game Where's Waldo or Where's Wally, depending on which particular country you're in? So let's go back and look at those photographs again. Okay. So who am I going to ask about how collaboration works across this broad range? Well, I figured that I should ask Daniel Thompson. And he told me a story. So Daniel is the head of our support and solutions engineering, SSE. I'm going to say SSE for the rest of this because I will stumble over support and solutions engineering. But he told me a story about collaboration, and SSE is an organization that provides training. It provides support. Sometimes when people ask what SSE stands for, I smugly say LDTS, which is a bit of an in-joke. And they also do services engagement. So they cover a broad range themselves for a small group. And so he told me a story, which comes from some work that they did. And the story starts with a major industrial OEM company. And by OEM, I mean a company that's kind of at the top of the pyramid of supply. So they consume from the ecosystem, they consume services, they consume products, and they build something. Car manufacturers are quite often called OEMs within the automotive industry. But this was in industrial. And they reached out to us because of our expertise. And they were introduced to Daniel's team. And they asked about a project that we were already doing called TRS, Trusted Reference Stack. And that ended up resulting in discussions with the customer, with SSE, and the wider Linaro engineering team. So already some collaboration happening. Then SSE created a proposal to do some custom engineering. This was aligned with the project that we already had, TRS. The code was delivered under an open source license. Great. And so you say, okay, well, that's a good example of engineering working with a service engagement and, good collaboration right there. But it gets better. Because after a little while, then the TRS team were asked for some of that functionality, again, very familiar. Thanks to the fact that we'd engaged with the industrial OEM on an open source license, we were able to get everyone back together, putting the band back together like the Blues Brothers. And so the customer, SSE and Ledge, backed for a second round of collaboration. And this time, instead of the code necessarily flowing to the customer, it's going upstream. So that was just one example of teams collaborating, actually on 2 occasions, delivering the code to a services customer. The second time, the collaboration to deliver the code upstream. And this is quite a nice example of how actually we're one Linaro. Regardless of what we do, we can work across the company. We're able to work as such. Part of that is in our DNA of open source, but part of that is just in our DNA of collaboration. And so what I would like to do is I'd really like to recognize the 2 teams here. So SSE, Daniel, would you stand up? Just in case anybody doesn't know what you look like. And could we also see the TRS team? So Ilias?
I know the rest of the team.
All right, great job, guys. Thank you. So collaboration spanning upstream, ecosystem engineering, a services customer, but collaboration is what Linaro is all about, and it's what Connect is all about. So I'd really like to wish you have a really great Connect. Thank you. And now I would like to introduce someone who kind of needs no introduction. Anne Marweja, VP of Products.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. So I recognize most of the names in here, most of the faces. There's some new faces. It's always a pleasure to meet new people at Connect. I've been to every single Connect since day one, and this is my first time on this side. So it's going to be interesting. I want to continue on the same thing that was brought up, which is the evolution. It was kind of it's a weave that Grant and Bill threaded through their presentation. I want to focus a little bit more on, but looking at it from a different side. Linaro's impact on the ecosystem, as Grant highlighted in the enterprise group, where we set up the server market and helped it make it a reality and basically make it just work out of the box is something as an example of our contribution as a whole. However, the ecosystem that we're in has been evolving, has been maturing. And in order for Linaro to continue to be relevant and to continue drive its own mandate, which is to be the software engine for the ARM ecosystem, we had to evolve as well. We had to evolve our approach. So I want to talk a little bit about that, but I want people to keep in mind, although I'm going to be talking about products, I want you to keep in mind that we're still the same DNA. We're still the same Linaro. We are about open source. We're about collaboration. We're about moving the software ecosystem forward. So what does that mean? So Linaro has basically, as Bill highlighted, is predominantly a collaborative engineering organization. We've been here. We've been doing it for many, many years. We've added services to address specific needs. And through services, we always try to educate and teach and drive organizations to make the right decisions, not just by scratching an itch and moving on, but like, let's upstream it. Let's do it properly. Let's use whatever the recent kernel APIs instead of going and creating some kind of a Frankenstein kernel, what have you. Moving forward, products and solutions is now a third option that we're exploring to further support the ecosystem forward. So we're working on several ideas. I'm going to introduce a couple in here for you. There are going to be some, there's a workshop on the first one, and I will touch base on that. So there will be a venue for, you can talk to any of us, of course, or you can talk to, go to the sessions on the schedule to explore further. First one is the One Lab. Putting all the marketing stuff aside, what does it really do? At the end of the day, you buy a board, you would love to have that board with the firmware that's already on it to just boot a SUSE, a Debian, Fedora. Should be nice, should be easy, right? Shouldn't be complicated. Shouldn't be just some kind of a special kernel you have to compile or a special area you have to go get. One Lab is about leveraging and making things work out of the box. We do that through testing and validation. We do that. It's basically a combination of a website that will do that will leverage a lot of the CI technology that we've developed over the year. Lava, as Grant mentioned, is a big piece of that. And there's other pieces that you will learn about more in the workshop that make this trick. So what are the value? What does it actually do? It allows you to test your firmware. So your firmware, and will tell you whether your firmware is compatible with a system-ready IR standard. Why is that relevant? This means that your distributions will be able to just boot and run on that board without anything. Just like you today, you buy your laptop. I bought my laptop, brand new laptop, a couple of weeks ago, downloaded Fedora, put it on, booted it, installed it. Didn't even think about it. That's the way it should be for the embedded in IoT and edge devices. Another thing, because we are going to be showing a dashboard, showing all these distributions available and their test results along, think of it as columns of all these OSs and rows of all these boards that gives you a matrix, in a way, in a health check, a status. That will create some downward pressure on the ecosystem as a whole. And that will drive the change. When you go to a customer and you say, you need to test your board and you need to do this and you need to do that, they look at you and go, that's going to cost me a lot of money. What do I get out of it? So we have to look at it from their perspective. And that's the product perspective that we're bringing to the ecosystem to further make sure what we're doing right now stays relevant to what it is that the market needs. By having that shown on a website, comparing it to other boards, other distributions, there's that slight pressure to say, we need to have a green checkbox next to our board. And you are the beneficiaries of all that. And the ecosystem as a whole is the biggest beneficiary of that. Because frankly, booting an operating system on a board, a small little embedded board, should not take you more than 5 minutes, technically. We have grander plans. We're starting with the system-ready IR. We have PSA and Parsec and other security layers that we want to add on. But this is just step one. Finally, the obvious, which is a catalog that if you want to go and build your own M&M sorting machines, Don, where are you? We still miss that machine. I think that would be something that you can just go there, look at the board and decide, I want this one because I want to plan on running this particular distribution or this particular option. The second one that we'll be looking at is LTS. long-term support. You're all familiar with the LTS kernel, the Linux kernel quality project, or program, should I call, the one that Grant mentioned, that where they discovered the ext4, that's been going on for many, many years. There's a very, very high chance that whatever is on your machine, on your phone, has been tested in the LTS, in the LKQ program, part of the LKFT tool set. We're taking the same idea of evolution. We're evolving that. We test the kernel now. We do triaging. We discover bugs and we relay it back. But that still doesn't address a lot of the other side of the ecosystem, where they need a long-term support that they can ship products on. But we went above and beyond. We have U-Boot, we have Opti, and we have TFA. So this will give you a firmware and a kernel stack that you can then ship products on. And because of our influence and because of our understanding of how the ecosystem and system-ready IR and the security layers and how trust is substrate and what have you, that will give us a channel to educate all these customers. We know the problems and we know the solution. Outside this room, people who are actually shipping a product don't necessarily understand that. It's a complicated problem for them. They have bigger problems to worry about. So we want to make it as easy. This becomes the channel for us to not only offer them something that they can use, but to learn the trick of the trade. So next time they do it right. So this is not, I don't want you to see this as a product. Oh, you're just going to sell LTS and make money and then sell them the next version of LTS. That's not our intent. Our intent is to improve the ARM ecosystem. That still is the same. Call it a product or call it a service or call it a collaborative project. The intent is the same. So I just want to make sure I leave you with that. There is a session called How to Stay Sane, LTS Government Mandate and Open Source. That's happening on Friday, read by Tom Gall. Tom, where are you? There he is. Thank you. He's the man. He's the grandfather of the LTS program and the ideas there. If you have anything, please pick his brains. You have to buy him a beer, though, or two. And I forgot to mention that there is a workshop on the One Lab that's being held on Wednesday, tomorrow. Don, being held by Don. Don, where are you? Yeah, there's Don. Don Harbin, he's running the workshop. There will be hardware, software, all the technical, all the nuts and bolts are going to be discussed there. It's open to the public. Please come and show. I think Don likes wine, expensive wine, so just feel that. It's good time. And with that, I thank you very much for your time. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Anmar. Okay, so that is... Oh, wait, just one more thing. And I'd like to invite Cara Zafabro, who is our head of product marketing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, hi everyone. Hello. Hi. So for Anmar, it was the first time on stage on this side. For me, it's the first connect, and I thought that breaking the ice being on stage was a good idea. Not sure it's still like that. So I just wanted to step on stage because today we've been talking about evolution and how much the technology and market landscape that we operate into rapidly changes and grow. And the need of evolution was definitely impacting on Linaro as well. So while this evolution was happening inside the company, we started looking also at our branding. So how the Linaro brand is looking like, what shapes, what symbols, what colors are representing Linaro. And we definitely came up with recognizing that we needed a fresh identity to reflect our continued growth and our commitment. So we started our journey, the journey into a deep introspection about what are our values, our principles, what we want to, from an aesthetic standpoint, to represent Linaro. And we wanted to capture, we didn't want just to have a logo or symbols. We wanted something that was able to capture the Linaro essence into a visual emblem. We, of course, explore different options, different combinations, but we were really looking for something that was our emblem, that was fully representing who we are and what we stand for. So we identified first which are our core values, that is collaboration, trust, and quality. And after a lot of discovery, a lot of exercise of combinations and options, finally it clicked. So we find what was effectively representing us as at our best. And I hope you're gonna be enjoying what we come up with. So as I said, not only a symbol, but something that is representing who we are, our journey, our commitment, and all our values. So this is how Lennar is gonna look like from now on. And I think Connect was a perfect stage to present it to every one of you after months of work. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.